Start to wrap up our situation here in Johannesburg for the time being. But so let's get an update on the national position here in the National Assembly. And after 53.57 of the voting districts have been counted, this is the position, 56.95%. That's the position that ANC finds itself at the moment. And don't forget, we're still waiting for the big centres to come through in Gauteng. And KwaZulu-Natal still has to come through, and urban centres such as Nelson Mandela Bay. So this figure might come down depending on how people have voted in those urban centres, but they do carry huge amounts of numbers. So still early days to call this a final sort of indicator. We'll have to wait and see what the position there. But perhaps while we're still here, let's take a look and see comparisons of the way things have moved over time. And it looks as if it's following similar patterns. So the ANC, last time it made an improvement was as far back as 2004. Steady decline over time, 65% in 2009, 62% in 2014, and right now, after 50% of the vote, sitting at 56%. So some of the predictors, the surveys pointing towards this figure. So perhaps not a surprise, but a steady decline over time. And so big questions will be asked by the party there. The DA, when we take a look at that, again, steady improvements over time, but perhaps starting to plateau a little bit in these elections. 2014, they were sitting at 22.2%. So far, half of the votes counted, they're sitting at 22.67%. Let's take a look at some of the provinces now. And an interesting one for me, actually, and I'm going to start there, is Mpumalanga. And in Mpumalanga there, what it's telling us, let's have a look. What it's telling us at the moment is that after I think it's about 80% of the votes so far, 89%. 67.8% of the vote has gone to the ANC. And what it looks like now is that the EFF has become the official opposition there, overtaking the DA, which is in third place with 11.71%. So big gains for the EFF in Mpumalanga. Let's take a look at the comparisons there. And you can see in the elections in 2014, the EFF got 6.2% of the vote there, now sitting with 13%. So you could say doubling their vote, 89,000 votes there. But if you put the DA and the EFF together, plus the Freedom Front Plus, who's doing tremendously well there, this is probably going to be the story of these elections. The Freedom Front Plus 0.8%, and again, they were in decline for the longest period of time, 2009, 2014, shrinking, and then this year, sudden resurgence. 3.3% of the vote there, but the ANC, the dominant party, of course, in Mpumalanga. Let's go to KwaZulu-Natal, because that's another province that's been the focus of a lot of conversation, infighting with the ruling party. And then there was the issue about the IFP, NFP, and who would rule the roost, perhaps as the official opposition there. And we can see here that the IFP has done really well so far. They're sitting with support of just under 20% there. The ANC 55%. But let's take a look at these comparisons then, give us an indication of the shifts of power over time. So ANC, upward trajectory for the last three elections before this one, 64% in 2014. Look at this, down 10% in 2019 so far, with only, as I said, half the votes counted at the moment. The IFP, they have found some a complete turnaround in their fortunes, because they were in steady decline as well over time. And this, as the NFP had made some serious gains in 2014, the IFP was sitting at 10.8%, And so that story has changed dramatically. IFP now sitting at 20%. They're now the official opposition, it looks like, if this holds through to the results on Saturday. And the DA in third place there with 10% of the votes. So that's an interesting swing. Again, Freedom Front Plus also featuring in KwaZulu-Natal there. 0.2% in the last election, up to 0.31%. So this is a party, I think, that a lot of people are going to be trying to figure out what happened. How is it that this party has got so much of a resurgence? We were listening to Professor Somadoda Fikeni, and he says that part of the story of the Freedom Front Plus is the land issue, land expropriation without compensation. And now suddenly these voices are coalescing around this issue and this concern, and giving voice to the Freedom Front Plus. So this is going to be the surprise party, one thinks. Gauteng, let's see how far we are there. Gauteng, 53% of the voting districts counted so far. So we're halfway there. The ANC, 51.8%. And this is another province that we're watching, because the local government elections gave us a view that perhaps the balance of power had shifted somewhat. The opposition parties forming a coalition there to take Tshwane and Johannesburg. And so 51%, a slim majority, and the ANC will take that right now. But let's take a look at the comparisons just to give you an idea of the decline in Gauteng. So they peaked at 68.4% in 2004, and then since then it really has been a story of decline over time. 64% in 2009, and then the alarm bell started ringing in 2014 with 53% there, 51.8%. So the big question is going to be, once the big urban centres come through, where will the ANC be sitting in terms of running Gauteng? Again, one final look at the national picture to say goodbye. The National Assembly, this is the situation. 56% overall for the ANC, 51% in Gauteng. What will it look like a little bit later on? We will continue to watch that for you. From us and the team this afternoon, we'll say thank you very much for tuning about. We continue with our rolling coverage and a special program coming up with Bongani Bingwa shortly. Stay with us for that.